Even though I promised you this garden tour, I have to say that I was a bit debating if I would actually show you this.
I'm Leni, an ecologist and in my early 30s. In the beginning of the year, I made my two biggest dreams come true. I adopted a rescue puppy and bought a piece of land, including a derelict cottage, which I want to turn into a beautiful homestead for us and a safe haven for wildlife. This is our story.
Welcome to my garden. Europe has just been through a major heat wave due to the climate catastrophe. And I have to say, it was terrifying. It was terrible. And I am not even a person who is at risk. I'm quite young, don't have any health issues, so I don't even want to know how other people who have health issues felt going through this. I hope you all went through it safely. As terrifying as it was, I have to say it was a bit of a wake-up call for me. I hope it was for everybody, but I can only speak for myself. And today I want to show you how my garden went through this heat wave and what lessons that I learned through it, or what lessons it taught me the hard way. But I think I will split this in two different videos because this would just be too long. So stay tuned, I will definitely get that up shortly. Even though I promised you this garden tour, I have to say that I was a bit debating if I would actually show you this, because this is not the garden that I would have hoped for in June. But there are a few reasons that I am doing this tour after all. First of all, I didn't manage to do any other building stuff this weekend, so I want to give you a video, and this is kind of my plan B. Where was I? I want to document this for me to have like a baseline of what it looks like at the beginning, with just taking out the grass, putting some plants in and mulching them because I didn't really do anything else, and hopefully be able to look back on this and see how my garden evolved over time. And I also would like to show you in a few years an absolutely thriving garden and show you that you can build a thriving garden with very few inputs, especially from off-site. That is one of my credos, that I don't want to bring in anything from the outside. I would like to keep this as closed loop as possible, and you gotta start somewhere. But let's get started. I did do a little bit of sowing yesterday because yesterday was the last day of this heat wave and it was supposed to rain in the evening, and this morning it did. Not very much, 2 centimeters, not even an inch. I was hoping a bit more, but so I might be jumping back and forth between yesterday and today. So we can maybe start with my absolutely unfinished keyhole bed. There's still a bunch of space that I want to turn into a bed, but at this point I don't have any plants to put in it, so it will just remain in this state until I do. This is the bed that actually has the most biomass in it. I have my potatoes here. This is, I think it's called Pink Blush or Miss Blush, a Scottish variety, and that should be the Rote. Don't know if it's a German variety, but I have known this variety for a few years. 10 plants each. They looked better before the heat wave, but I am surprised on how well they survived. All in all, I want to build a garden that can survive without a lot of work from me, so without a lot of watering, weeding. So through this heat wave, I have to admit, I barely watered my beds, maybe once. And I have to say, knowing that, it actually kind of looks pretty good. I would have expected them all to die. Between the potatoes, I also have some Kohlrabi, which I have to say are the best Kohlrabi I have grown so far, or ever. I never really had any success growing kohlrabi. So maybe this year. And I do have to say the cabbage butterflies are starting to lay their eggs. And yes, hello! And yes, I could put a netting over this, but I don't want to. I might be a bit stubborn, others might say stupid, but I would like to grow vegetables as simply as possible. I see this whole garden as kind of an experiment. And if I see a caterpillar on here, I will just take it off. Next to my potatoes, I have my chickpeas, which I sowed out a new round yesterday because not all of them came up, just a few. But they do have their first tiny pod. I have these are chickpeas that I have grown myself in my last garden. I literally just planted some chickpeas that I got in an organic store. So did not spend much money on a bunch of seeds. I also got a few chickpeas. I bought them just to add to the varieties.
In the next bed, only a handful of leeks survived, sadly, and I would be bummed out if I would have to leave them all to flower in the next year because I do want to collect seed from them again. So I did sow out some more. I absolutely love leeks, so there is no such thing as too many of them.
Then we have a second cabbage bed, which this time it's interplanted with some tomatoes. Yes, I am growing tomatoes without any cover. I know that is debated. I know that I have two different varieties of Oxheart in there, if you call it that in English, Ochsenherztomaten, and Brandywine. And my cabbages, I don't really know what all of them are. I just planted them and thought that I will see what they are once they have grown. I do know that those three over there are Kohlrabi. I think those are two, and the bigger ones are most likely going to form a kind of cabbage head, so white cabbage and red cabbage. The tomatoes in here are supposed to keep away the cabbage butterfly, but it hasn't really done its job so far. I had also planted some basil in here, but that did not survive the heat wave. This bed is one of the two first beds that I made here, so they're kind of nostalgic, even though that hasn't been that long ago. I did plant some garlic in that side and some broad beans here. I was wondering why the broad beans weren't doing very well, and apparently you are not supposed to grow them alongside garlic. My garlic isn't looking too good. It's absolutely wilted, so I will probably need to harvest it. And it is absolutely not what I thought it would be. I put in really, really big cloves in February, March, and they have turned into these tiny garlics. I don't think there's much to eat on them, but I will keep them and replant them in the fall, which is my preferred method of growing garlic. I just put them in February or March because I didn't have anywhere else to put them. And also a cute little dog decided to bury her treat in here and destroy my garlic. I think it is actually too early to harvest garlic, but it's so dead, so dried up, nothing is going to happen here anymore. So the garlic in this bed isn't looking any better. I will even have to see if I can find all of them. They do have a nice root system. So this was a bit of a bummer, but I can show you one thing in this bed that you were very curious about. And it's the Egyptian walking onions. Some of you said that you have never heard of them, and I can finally show them to you and also show you why they are called the Egyptian walking onions. So they are also from the allium family, so Leeks. And they make a little onion down here, but they also produce these little onion tops, so they don't bloom, they go directly to this. And the nice thing about them is that you can just pop these off and replant them. You can stick them anywhere you want to, and this one has 5 new ones on here, so you can eat the onion and replant it. You can also eat the green, but I would not recommend to you to eat the main one because it is very tough. It has very many fibers. You can eat these side ones just like a spring onion, chop them into your food. So you have like 3 different harvests. You could also eat these or pickle them or do whatever you want to, but I usually just replant them. I also want to do some tests how well these store if you dry them out. I already have been sticking some of these in the beds everywhere, forgetting probably half of the place that I have put them. But since they multiply, like this has 9 new ones on top, if some of them get lost, that happens, and you will see where they grow. Oops. So they do have different names. They're called Egyptian onions, walking onions, Egyptian walking onions. I think there are a few more. In German, you would call them Etagenzwiebeln because they make like a story onion, story of a building, because they make like these different stories. If you would let them grow, these tiny shoots would at some point also make a new one, and you would have multiple stories. But the name Egyptian walking onion comes from them at some point tipping over, the little bulbs starting to grow, making new ones, and in a sense start walking. If family or friend has these in their garden, just ask them for these little bulbs. I think anybody who has them will give them up very freely because they do create abundance. So if you know me and want some of these, let me know. I will gladly share them. Here, see. So someone forgot to charge the backup batteries, so I had to take a bit of a break. Back to the last bed because I was so focused on the garlic here. The broad beans have made some pods, which I will leave on there to dry out so that I do have some seeds that actually survived in my garden for next year. I will definitely need to buy in some more seeds, but at least I have some. And I also have 2 little zucchini plants here that have actually started blooming. This one, so far only male flowers. I don't know if you know this, but the Cucurbita, I don't know if it's all of them or just the squash and pumpkin varieties that actually have 2 different flowers, so a male flower and a female flower. You can pretty easily recognize them. The male flower just has this little stem and then the flower, and they usually make these first. And the female flowers actually have already a teeny tiny fruit. Biologically speaking, this is a fruit, have a teeny tiny fruit on them. I might see one, but it's not looking too good. And you could actually also eat these flowers. Maybe not this one, maybe a fresher one, but if you want to do that, take the male flowers. This next bed is probably my favorite bed because it has pumpkins or squash, I never know how to call them, in them. These are the Cucurbita Maxima. And I love growing Cucurbita. squashes. I don't know why. I do like eating them, but for some reason I absolutely love growing them, and they are in here and they are actually looking really, really good. They went through this heat wave really, really good. I think I watered them once. This one also has bloomed male flowers so far only. But this one also already has some flowers, and the other ones aren't quite there yet, but they will be. I have different ones in here. If a very cute little dog hadn't stolen my markers or some of my markers, I could tell you more about them. Some are Hokkaido, just red Hokkaido, where I actually just took the seeds out of some that I bought at the store. This one is a blue banana. I have blue Kuri in here, which fantastic squash. Do you still see me? This one is also a red Hokkaido, and the other ones don't have any markers in them because I was too lazy or someone stole them. I think one, if it's a Maxima, is a Carolina candy roaster. Is it Carolina? It's a candy roaster, which is one of the squashes that I am most excited about because it is supposed to be absolutely fabulous from the taste. I also have my little bean teepee here where the beans are starting to grow. These are just the normal garden bean variety. I have sown some in the back here, which they still need to get a little teepee. I have one stick lying here, but so far I haven't gotten around to actually making them one. And last but not least, there are tiny sunflowers. At least one growing in this bed. This one is a bit of a sad looking bed. I planted some cucumbers and melons in here. A lot of them died. I think also before the heat wave when I was gone for a week, they should have been watered. I did re-sow some melons in here. I think those are the cucumbers. And I also added some sweet pea seeds here that I still had that are probably never going to grow because they are just way too old, but there's no hurt in trying. We are working ourselves down in a zigzaggy path here, if you were wondering. Next are two of my smaller beds. The third one is still empty. This bed is supposed to be my flower bed, which is also looking kind of sad. Some flowers or some plants have come up, but so far only this one has flowered, and right in the middle of the heat wave, so I think there's not much life left in that one. Over here we have my herb bed, which is coming along quite nicely. I have some of these spring onions, perennial spring onions, Welsh onions, I'm not sure what you call them. They're all grown from seed. I also have turmeric, oregano, and a little rosemary cutting. The last in this row, we have my Swiss mint bed, which hasn't gotten through this heat wave in the best way. I think it needs some water. It hasn't taken over this bed completely yet, sadly. I would love it to because I absolutely love this mint. And we have reached the last row of beds. This is the one where I set up the trellis. If you want to see the video to that, I will link it somewhere here. I have sown some beans, which sadly not very many, two to be exact, have sprouted on this side. Since then, yesterday I have sown more. I don't know if they just didn't like the conditions here or if the seeds were just too old to actually sprout. Some weird filming positions here. On this side, I have more cabbages. These will probably be the ones that actually make like a flower head. So broccoli and I did pop in some of the Egyptian walking onions between here to hopefully deter some pests, but I'm probably a bit late on that one. During the heat wave, they didn't look too good, but every evening they did pop back up again. And behind them, I have some more tomatoes. Again, some Oxheart tomatoes and some wild and or Urtomaten. So the original, I don't really know what that means. I just added them here to hopefully have some tomatoes that can more easily be cross-pollinated, because the tomatoes that we have cultivated, that we have bred, usually only pollinate themselves, so that the flower is closed in a way so that no bee gets in there to actually cross-pollinate. On the other side of the arch, we also have some of the beans back there. Same story as over here. I did resow them. We have one kohlrabi that survived and 2 spaghetti squashes. Here is the space where I sowed this mix of seeds that I had. Over here I sowed some beet root. I hopefully can, whoa! Some of these seeds are actually already sprouting. I sowed them yesterday. These are probably the radish seeds. Wow, I did not expect that. For full transparency, I do have to say that these radish seeds were supposed to be microgreens, so maybe they are bred to sprout very quickly. We have reached the last bed in my vegetable garden, which I am for some reason starting to call Veggieville. This is where my sweet corn is at. It's actually looking pretty good. I sowed it out. Hello! Nö, Mausi, du sollst hier gar nicht drin sein. Nee, geh mal raus. Durchfallen. I sowed them out a little bit later than I was probably supposed to. She's so cute. But they are looking really well, and I also sowed them out a bit later because on both ends of my garden there are fields. So on 3 ends of my garden there are fields, but on 2 of them, on the short sides, the farmer is also planting corn, most likely corn to be fed to animals or biogas chambers, so not the corn that you want to be eating. So I hope, because I planted this later, that they will bloom first before mine will, so that there will be no cross-pollination. Corn is pollinated through wind. I have grown sweet corn just maybe 10 meters away from another cornfield. There hadn't been that much cross-pollination. Corn is actually, funnily, I think one of the only plants where you already see it in the cob, in the seed, if in this case the father plant was a different type of corn. So you can differentiate corn by the seeds. There's sweet corn, there's popcorn, there's fodder corn, and some other types that are more used in the US to make cornmeal. And so we don't really use that much here in Germany. So the main types are the popcorn, the feed corn, and the sweet corn. And the sweet corn, at least in the dry stage, is shrumpled up a lot more than the popcorn and the feed corn. So you can actually tell it on the cob once it's dried up if there was any cross-pollination. Fun fact. Back to this bed. I had also planted some Moschate pumpkins in here, which as far as I can see, one survived. But I did sow out some more yesterday. And back here we have some zucchini plants. They cannot interbreed. The one in the front are the Moschate. Back there are Pepo. And the ones in the first pumpkin bed that I showed you are the Maxima. So all of these in my garden here can't cross, at least not in a way that I don't want them to. That was the garden tour for June 2026. I hope you enjoyed it. I really did like going through the garden like this in a peaceful, quiet evening. I would love to make this a monthly thing, as long as things are actually growing and I can show you stuff. So maybe tune in to the next one. I promise you also to give you some insights into the lessons that I learned due to the heat wave. But I think I will split this in 2 different videos because this would just be too long. So stay tuned, I will definitely get that up shortly.